Today's episode of the Buckeye Roast, Brandon Innis. Big topic of conversation continues to impress, and the crew takes a closer look on what his breakout camp could mean for not just Ohio State's offense, but the receiver room as a whole. Juck, host of Juck on Bucks, joins the show to answer a key question. Is he more or less concerned with Ohio State's recruiting misses given the current strength of the roster? And later, we react to new traditions unveiled by athletic director Ross Bjork. Are they a sign of meaningful change or just small updates to appease the Buckeye brand? I'm Chris Drew, and this is the Buckeye Roast with Ron and Q right here on Dead Air Sports.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. We are back for another episode of the Buckeye Roast. It's your boy Ron James here with my guy QPK. Q, how you doing?
Another great morning to be a Buckeye fan, man. It's training camp. Ron, what am I going to complain about, man? I'm excited. How you doing?
I mean, you must not be on Twitter because, they have something to complain about every day over there. So I'm happy for you because it sounds like you don't use the Bird app anymore.
I'm just waiting for the season, man. All complaints will come out starting week 1, but for now, it's just vibes. Championship vibes right now.
Just vibes. It's the best time of the season. All the hope in the world for your team. You could tell yourself anything that you want about your team right now, and it could technically be true because no one can disprove it, at least for another 20 or so days. We have an action-packed show today. We have a special guest and our guy Juck from Juck on Bucks here. But before we get started, we got to jump into some super chats from yesterday. I was watching the show live along with everybody else this morning, yesterday's show, and boy, people were upset when they realized that we weren't actually live. Our guy Don B, Caleb Downs at nickel will nullify any run offense. Yeah, we talked about that. I felt like I actually called Cam the other day, our guy Cam from Buckeye BS, and I said, what are they going to do if the interior of this defense is soft and they can't stop the run? He's like, Patricia's going to have to get creative and find ways to get more guys in the box. And getting Caleb Downs closer to the line of scrimmage, I think that's going to help this run game immensely.
Yeah, we talked about it. It's one of the elite tacklers in college football. So getting him up there, we got Malik Harford, who's going to be another good tackler. I would bet my money on that. I think this defense will be just fine, but I love Matt P getting creative. I'm interested to see. I can't wait for the Texas game, man.
And Q, an OG of the show, our guy Mike Green. My guys, what up? He was very disappointed to see that we missed the super chats, but we did not forget about you. Get your shout out on the next show. We appreciate everybody sending super chats over there on the Best Damn Media YouTube. This will be our final week on that channel. We will be exclusively on the Dead Air Sports YouTube channel. So if you're watching over there on Best Damn Media, make sure you switch over there. Q, anything else before we get to our guest?
Shout out to my guy, Mike Green. We've been talking all offseason, so glad to see him back. I want everybody back. Move over to Dead Air Sports. Catch us over there. You know where to catch us Monday through Friday, man. Let's get to it.
We are back with our guy Juck of Juck on Bucks, or should I say of Buckeye Huddle. A new home for you. Juck, how you doing?
Fantastic. Missed you guys, man. You took the whole off season off. I had to come up with stuff to talk about every single day. I couldn't bounce anything off you, but I'm happy you're back to work. Good to see you guys. Happy about the Dead Air Sports. Everything sounds like it's starting off really well.
Super excited. Yeah, a little peek behind the curtain. I text Juck during the offseason and tell him that I don't envy his job one bit covering this team and dealing with all the crazies during the offseasons. I tell him all the time, I don't know how you do it. We say every year that we're going to try, and then I watch everyone else that does it, and I'm like, I'm not jealous in any way.
Man, I feel like I've been talking to Juck all offseason, the amount he's on my TV when I just let YouTube play. I see Juck every 5 minutes. I'm like, yeah, I feel like we've been talking this whole time.
Hell yeah. I love it that way.
Absolutely. So we got to jump right into it. I sent Juck a text and I said, man, what do you want to talk about? And the last time Juck and I were on screen together, we talked about the guy that is on the cover in Brandon Innis, a guy that I have been beating the drum for since since Lincoln Riley went to USC, and it opened the door for the Buckeyes to get back in on that recruitment. Innis originally committed to Oklahoma and then decommitted when Lincoln Riley went to USC, ended up a Buckeye. It started the SFE train as far as getting Carnell Tate here, Jeremiah Smith, and the rest of them. A lot of talk has been made about Brandon Innis this offseason and one Mylan Graham. It feels like people were too confident in the quarterback battle. They had to manufacture another Buckeye Civil War, and it was Brandon Innis versus Mylan Graham. And a lot of hype was made about Mylan Graham and the speed and explosion that he adds to this team. But we see an energized and super fit-looking Brandon Innis here at camp, and just wanted to get your thoughts on where this battle stands and your thoughts on Brandon Innis coming into this season.
So, like, Mylan's so fantastic, just a marvelous athlete. And back during when that was going on, it was like, it wasn't too long off that Penn State game, and BI caught a touchdown pass that Penn State game. And I don't know if it was the angle of the camera. He looked kind of slow a little bit running the end zone. And people were cooking him for that. And then you roll in and you see Mylan and you see him in the spring game, and it's like, wow, this dude's electric. So it was valid for people to think, I don't know, maybe we could. But I'm telling you, man, we were there on Saturday at camp, and I'm not even speaking just specific to plays that Brandon Innis was making, but he just caught your eye over and over again as an elite football player on a field of elite football players. And it was impressive. I mean, he is not just a leader, but play after play after play. And even when he's not making plays, he just flashes everywhere. That number 1 looks great on him, by the way, just flashing everywhere. The speed, he looks electric. The yards after catch. I mean, it doesn't look anything like it did that Penn State game. I'll put it that way. But I think there's a lot of people that owe you an apology because you were backing him 100%. You weren't hearing any of that stuff.
No, and my biggest thing was we rarely see at Ohio State, and it's something that I've talked about in the offseason, not on camera, but in different conversations about the fact that we really haven't seen in the Ryan Day era someone surpass someone that is following their schedule pace for progression at Ohio State. And by that, I mean, most times if a guy's going to jump someone, they do it as a true freshman. They don't normally not participate as a freshman and then jump someone who's on their normal path of progression. And everything led to look like Brandon Innis, especially with the time that we saw him get last year. You mentioned the Penn State game. It looked like Brandon Innis was going to be the guy. And I'm like, when have we seen a guy not jump the person ahead of them as a true freshman? Mylan Graham got in late, and we saw how that slowed Brandon Innis's progression down by getting in the summer. And you saw how Carnell Tate was able to step ahead of him on the depth chart there. I just felt like it was going to be too much for him to overcome, and Brandon Innis was going to be too much of a talent. Like Brian Hartline said, we have no problem rotating receivers, but you have to prove that whoever I'm taking off this field, you're going to be at bare minimum the exact same level as them.
For sure. And, Mylan's got a heck of a bright future. There's no doubt about that. This is no shot at him whatsoever, but Brandon Innis is now electric and polished. He always was polished, but now it's just like he lost a little weight, and I mean, just a couple of pounds. He looks just so dynamic, but it's, we were talking after the game, 50 catches over under. I'm taking the over.
I would have to say the same. I mean, the slot position in Ryan Day's offense, we've watched it be the security blanket for many quarterbacks. And we've seen NFL receivers have less receptions than, guys like KJ Hill, a guy that made it to the NFL, but he wasn't the premier receiver on that team when you have Terry McLaurin and Paris Campbell out there, and you see him end up leading the team in reception. So it's always in the Ryan Day offense. You can't count out that slot receiver. And if Jackson Smith-Njigba would have had 2 years in that role, he might have set the record for receiving yards in 2 years. Q, I want to get your thoughts on the Brandon Innis conversation. We were actually looking at the old YouTube the other day and looking at some of our most successful thumbnails, and one of our biggest shows was the Boogeyman episode, and everybody's like, well, who's the Boogeyman? And it was Brandon Innis, the only 5-star committed to the Big Ten at the time in that class. And to see him finally get his opportunity, Q, what are your expectations?
Yeah, big time for Brandon Innis. We've waited a little bit. We've seen sparks, like I said, last year at Penn State. Obviously, he showed up. I think that might have been my moment of the season. I was like, we got 3 backup receivers in, and we're going to pass the ball. Like, Chip Kelly must really be in town, because that's just something we have not seen before. But I'd hate to be the positive person yet again, but I'm like, why can't we have both? It's like on Twitter, the battle between new facilities and winning championships. It's like, can't we do both? Like, we have to choose. I think Brandon Innis is poised for a big-time season. I'm expecting a modern version of KJ Hill. This is what I want. Obviously, we have the explosive guys on the edge. KJ Hill ate in that offense. You were like, wait, Garrett Wilson was here, Chris Olave was here. Like, all these guys were here, and he still ate. I expect Brandon Innis inside in the slot position, Ryan Day's Cadillac position, to really eat in this offense. But also, Mylan Graham, like, if he's pushing that far, give me a little rotation. I wouldn't be mad seeing 5 streaking across the field, get him in creative ways. Hopefully with Brian Hartline as OCs, we'll talk about later, he will do some things we quite haven't seen, but maybe it's time to just rotate. That's all I'm asking.
I have some bad news, Q.
Take the glasses off. Go ahead, break it down to me.
I don't think they're going to rotate. Like, I don't think we're going to see anything more than the traditional rotation that we see, and I think it's still going to even be a battle for that 4th wide receiver. I want to ask you, Juck, do you think that Mylan Graham is that who you're writing in Penn as wide receiver 4 right now? Because I mean,
no.
That's the other thing. You talked about seeing Brandon Innis out there looking sharp in the number 1. I was surprised at camp when I saw number 11, and I was like, that's not Brandon Innis.
Yeah, man, Quincy's a beast. But I'm not even writing off Bryson Rodgers to get some run there, because he, obviously he's bided his time. He stayed in the program. He's done everything they've asked him to do. And he looks really crispy in and out of stuff. He looks fast. I know he's got great hands. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw him get a little run there in that 4th role.
Yeah, and I mean, that just goes to show you, I mean, wide receiver you for a reason. And anybody who even attempts to compare their wide receiver room to Ohio State, it's just laughable, because not even when you talk about Jeremiah Smith in the top end of this wide receiver room, we're now, 6 wide receivers deep, and we haven't even talked about Phillip Bell. Yeah. And I know that's someone that jumped out to you at camp, and I was shocked to see his rating drop so much in high school, because he was flirting with that 5-star, high 4-star range, and then dropped his junior and senior year. But I mean, the talent is there, and you could see why people were high on him early in his high school career.
I'll tell you what, man, I kind of missed on him. I was not very high on him. Just, his film, it wasn't, I thought, okay, he's solid, but he looks like he could be a certified dude. He was all over the place making plays in the spring, and here he's doing it again in the fall. And man, Hart just knows his stuff, obviously. I mean, the guy, yeah, like you said, like when he was an early high rated guy in his class when they first came out with the rankings, and then kind of steady dropped. Looks like the Buckeyes got a hell of a steal with Phil Bell. He's going to be a dude.
Absolutely. Q, any other thoughts on the wide receiver room before we pivot?
No, man. I mean, it just sounds, from guys at camp, it just sounds explosive all the way through the office. I mean, it sounds like we got young guys who are coming up, battling. We got older guys, and we rarely even talk about Jeremiah Smith, just because I don't know if Ron really left anything to say after the last season. But it's like, you would think the talk about him is so high, and it's like Quincy Porter, Phillip Bell, I mean, Mylan Graham, Brandon Innis. So it just sounds like, I mean, I'm pleading just one time to get maybe a little rotation, but it just sounds like this room is so deep and so talented. It's going to be exciting to watch. And like I said, if the quarterback can just steer the ship, don't crash the Cadillac, man, I think it's going to be a really good season.
when you talk about this wide receiver room, you do have to feel a little bit bad for the corners at Ohio State because, like, what if you, like, one day you just wake up, you're on your way to the Woody, you have a little bit of a cough, you have a cold, big test that week, you're tired, and then you look across and it's like, oh, I got Jeremiah Smith. Oh, wait, here, one of the backups coming in. Oh, it's Quincy Porter. Oh, wait, this guy, Phillip Bell, he was a 4-star instead of these 5 stars I've been dealing with, still getting cooked. I feel like there are no days off for these cornerbacks at Ohio State. And I thought about Denzel Burke at practice, like in the NFL, and they were talking about how competitive he was. And I was like, can you imagine what his life was at Ohio State for the last 4 years? And the guys that, Mars finally gone, thank God. And then Jeremiah Smith shows up. It's like, these guys can't catch a break.
The Marv to Jeremiah Smith transition will forever be the funniest thing ever.
I did want to stick with the wide receiver room, kind of. You made the joke. It was funny hearing Hartline talk about the offensive line, given that he's the wide receiver guy, and we've been watching these interviews with him as a position room coach. He is now the offensive coordinator for the second time around. Wanted to get your thoughts there on the hire and the spin back on Brian Hartline after the Chip Kelly experience.
So for one, I keep forgetting when they're interviewing him and when he is talking about Austin Ceraville, I'm going, what the hell are they asking him about Ceraville? Like, oh, hello. It's just, he's been doing it for so long, and I've watched so many of these things and I'm like, what is this? But I don't think the first time around he was fully ready. And I don't think Day was fully ready. I think it was a bit of both. Day course corrected. I've gotten a lot of comments like he failed at this the first time. Why are we doing this? Yeah, I don't see it that way at all. So putting him in this role, a guy who's never failed at anything he's put his all into in his life, and a guy who's been in one offense his entire college coaching career for 9 years now with the same coach running that offense, I don't know how it could be anything but successful. I have full confidence in this, like full confidence.
Q, I have to ask you, Brian Hartline has to be looking at Ryan Day side-eye like all these people out here telling me I failed as an offensive coordinator. He's like Dwayne Haskins, JT Barrett, CJ Stroud, Justin Fields, and you give me Kyle in year one? And then Kyle goes to Syracuse and lights the FBS on fire, but he's like, really, my first shot at this, I'm unsure of what I'm doing. He's unsure of himself, and you don't trust me. Like, how am I going to succeed out here? Like, what if Brian Day set you up like that? What would you be saying to him?
I mean, I'm sure we said enough bad things about Ryan Day through the course of this show. So pick anyone you want to. I did feel like Brian Hartline, unfortunately, got the short end of the stick at that time. And CJ Stroud walks out, and it's like, well, who's really going to walk in that's as good or better than that guy, especially the way he played against Georgia and the way we feel about him later in his career than early on. So it feels like Brian Hartline may have got a little short end of the stick, but you feel like in a little bit he wasn't ready. And you feel like in a little bit Ryan Day gave him that position, but didn't have the confidence in him to actually run that room and do what he wanted to do. In comes Chip Kelly. Now he's learned from Chip, maybe learned a little more of the run game. Tyler Bowen walks in and gives him some addition in the run game. So you feel like with a combination of both and Ryan Day still there being one of the best offensive mind in the game, you have to feel like, okay, like I feel like there may be some bumps in the road, but Brian Hartline is on the road to success. Now, it may not happen in week 1, may not happen in week 5, but what's most importantly is the playoff and the run we made there. Because even at Chip Kelly, we looked at Michigan game like, the hell was that? Like, so there'll be bumps in the road, but I am fully confident in Brian Hartline going forward, and we'll see what he does.
I'm going to hold your guys' feet to the fire here like I'm talking to ChatGPT or Grok, where I have to tell them yes or no answer. I don't need any of the fluff. Just answer my question. When we look back at the first tenure with Brian Hartline at offensive coordinator, if you had to choose, do you think that was more of a situation of Ryan Day's hand being forced as far as justifying the pay that Brian Hartline was warranting as a position coach, as the best wide receiver coach in the country? And do you feel like that was just a title bump, or do you feel like that was a legitimate shot that did not go the way that Ryan Day intended?
I'm going to go with option 2.
I must say title bump. At the time, you felt like Brian Hartline may have started to want more than just be a wide receiver coach. We heard of Cincinnati taking the head coaching job over there. He interviewed for that. I felt like Ryan Day said, this is a guy I can't lose. And even if I miss out on him as coordinator, if I find a way to keep him around the program, that's more important than him running the offense efficiently or the way I want to.
Juck, can you explain a little bit more about why you think it didn't go the way that Ryan Day intended when he first hired him?
I think he prematurely, I've done this at times, like in my career. And I just feel like he thought he was ready to relinquish the reins. He thought he was ready, saw a couple things that made him uneasy. And then it was just kind of like, do I really want to do this? And then there was this awkwardness where he said he was going to call plays. And then he clearly wasn't calling plays. And then he admitted he wasn't calling plays. And he just kind of pulled the reins back. It was a wonky situation. And the reason I say it is because I've just been in a professional situation like that and done the same thing that Day did. And it just resonated with me. I could be totally off base, but it just felt the exact same the way it played out.
Yeah, and then it worked out perfectly for Day because it couldn't have worked out any better because I don't think Bill O'Brien was his first choice. I think Chip Kelly was his first choice. And then when Bill O'Brien left, he really put the full court press on Chip to get him here as the replacement. And now, I mean, he's done it. He's been to the mountaintop, and we talked about it on episode 1. I feel like he has a level of grace outside of the Michigan game to make his own decisions right now. And if he trusts Hartline, I'm going to roll with it. I wanted to get your thoughts on the other side of the ball when it comes to the defense. You got to see Matt Patricia and his defense up close. You got to see Caleb Downs at the nickel. I wanted to get your thoughts on the things that we're hearing around this new defense and how different do you think this could look from what we saw under Jim Knowles?
Very. I really do. So I think the intention for Ryan Day and everybody else was, hey, we got a guy here. Obviously, your pool is limited because you want somebody to come in and be able to run that defense. You're not going to go get the hottest defensive coordinator in the country because he's going to bring his defense. So he limited his pool, finds a guy who can do it, who's also brilliant and can do anything else, and brings him in. And for the comfort level, we're going to keep everything the same. Okay, cool. But then you look at the way Matt Patricia has assimilated and the trust that he seemingly already has gained from everybody around. By the way it's gone, it just looks like it's gone so great for everyone. Then you start to think, okay, maybe he's going to introduce some more and they're going to be receptive. And by the time we're mid-season, I think it's going to just look quite a bit different than they originally intended it to, because I just think that it sets up perfectly with the weakness, with the areas that are a little bit weaker on this team for him to do what he does best. And that's let those linebackers loose and run a little more 3-man front. Like Q said, though, I'm really excited for it. I think he's just kind of a wizard when he wants to be. And he seems to be getting along so great with the players. Everything about it just feels perfect. I'm really excited for what he's got in store. This thing with Caleb at nickel was like, we sat here all offseason talking about, the safety battle. Nobody ever brought it up. And it seems so obvious. Why don't we try this? And then they come out and it's just like, oh yeah, there they go. Okay. But so many different options here with these guys. And I'm really excited for Patricia. I love the hire from the beginning. I know it was a very controversial hire at first. I don't hear anybody saying that anymore.
No, I wanted to stick with the nickel position. There are 2 beyond capable guys at nickel in Bryce West and Lorenzo Styles. We just watched Lorenzo Styles play on a national championship team. What do you think that means for the rotation in the secondary, that they're going to be moving Caleb around so much? And how many guys do you expect to play in this secondary? I mean, you've heard about pretty much everybody in contention. I mean, you already see Fahim Delane in the 2 deep. How many of these guys in the secondary, and I'll even expand this question out to the cornerback position, because
7, 8.
How do you find spots for all these guys when you got Caleb Downs? Hey, I can do this, I can do that.
Yeah, it's rough. It's going to be a healthy rotation. I'm counting 8 guys right now off the top of my head that I think are going to play consistently. My hope is Lorenzo continues to improve, and I think he will, because I thought it was, I don't know. I don't want to say he was getting the short end of the stick, but it seemed like people were really writing him off in the offseason that he's not good enough. Who can replace Lorenzo? And I think he's got some dog in him. He was new to the position. I think he's going to continue to get better. Obviously Bryce looking good and getting better in that role as well. And Fahim, like you said, Fahim looks legit, man. He looks absolutely legit. I'm sure we'll get to it, but man, this class of 2025, wow, we got some dogs.
Absolutely. I felt like that was one of the things that I couldn't help but notice while I was at camp, that every single one of the freshmen looked like they've been in the program for multiple years, or like they've been in a college weight program for multiple years. And that's been a topic we've discussed on this program a ton. Like, our players look doughy sometimes. Like, what is going on in the Woody? And there's none of that in the Woody right now. I felt like I used to watch SEC football sometimes and be like, these guys look different than what I'm watching on Saturday in the Big Ten. And it felt like for the first time in a long time last year, when you looked at this Ohio State team, you're like, they're bigger, faster, stronger than everybody that they get on the field with. And I feel like that's going to carry over into this year. What are your thoughts on just the overall physical progression of this team?
Oh, yeah. I mean, this goes back to me and Chris Drew's first day of the program, the first show on BDM, talking about, man, this weight program, and we just don't look up to snuff when we play these teams. Even Michigan, we felt at a time, had surpassed us and looked more physical as a team. I felt like Coach Mick in the last couple seasons has done a job of upgrading his program. He's felt like, okay, like, let me add some new stuff in here. Let me try some new. And it's feel like it's come into this program and really transform. I mean, JTT looks like a monster last season. We talked about years where we're like, Zach Harrison got long sleeves. Like, this Ohio State. Like,
show your arms.
I'm like, in this football program, I can't wait to take my shirt off. And he looked like he's wearing a jacket on the field. Like, I'm like, we don't need no more of that. Coach Mick went out, and I think it took a couple losses to that team up north, but he was like, look, we're not playing this no more. Everybody's going to be fit. Our quarterbacks are going to look like running backs. Our running backs are going to look like linebackers. Our linebackers are going to look like edges. Like, we're done. We're done with this not SEC looking football team. And I felt like Coach Mick deserves a lot of credit, because Tennessee, Texas, we know those teams have it. We know they have the talent. We know they have it. And Ohio State went out there and basically out-physical all of them. So Coach Mick, shout out to him for the development he's done.
Juck, should I break the bad news to him?
Yeah, go for it.
Kenyatta Jackson wears long sleeves, Q. So you're going to have to watch another D end out there with long sleeves.
I think he just doesn't want to make the rest of us feel bad, so he wears long sleeves.
But the one thing, Q, I mean, you go back to the first day of the program and you talk about how far we've come as far as the strength program. I could remember you guys playing clips like, why are they out here wrestling tires? And then we have an offensive line coach that says that he doesn't like to use sleds. Well, I got good news. I haven't seen a tire from the media team in years, and they were hitting sleds while we were at camp. So, man, we've come a long way. Who prayed for times like this?
There's a difference between throwing heavy balls and playing football. That's all I'm going to say.
I wanted to pivot a little bit and talk about the young guys. A lot has been made this offseason about needs in this recruiting class. A ton has been made about misses at cornerback. Ton has been made about misses on the defensive line. Juck, you got to see this team up close and personal. Did you feel like there are as many holes on this team as you thought coming into the fall?
I feel like it looks pretty much like I expected as far as that goes. But, you know, they obviously could have used, another corner here in this class. And I think it's maybe a little late based on the way they're spending to really get in on anybody of any value other than a guy like a potential developmental guy from like Jordan Woods, somebody like that. And that's unfortunate because they were right there, but Walt had a pretty small board, man. It only 14 guys on the board. And it just, once it disappeared, it disappeared. We haven't seen much motion on anybody else. We were talking about this a little earlier, and I decided to take a look at this in the span of like a 2-year block. And I think that's kind of a good way to look at it. And I was looking at the defensive line. You know, we're looking at the interior of the defensive line right now, the crew that's there, kind of a position in need. And then we kind of look in the next, in 2025 and then in 2026. And on that defensive line, you bring in Damari Simeon, Jameer Perez, Cam Brickle, and add them to Max Roy, Jarquez Carter, and Trajan Odom. In addition, Zion Grady and Epi and Inkari Wilder. It's a big crew, and size-wise, it's a big crew coming in. I really like that. I felt like you needed to get bigger. But there's some really, really good-looking prospects there, and there's some guys who are, on the 3-year, 4-year developmental program too. So I like it when you combine it all together like that. I think it looks pretty promising on the defensive line, more so than when you just take one class at a time and look at it.
Did any one player in particular stand out to you from that group in the 25 and 26 class from your time at camp?
Man, that's a tough question. That really is, because so many of them I felt looked really good. But I guess if I'm just going to pick one, I think that, we've been talked all offseason about is Devin Sanchez going to be just too good to keep off the field, that you just can't waste a year of him on the roster? I feel that way about Bo Jackson. I think he's just different. He creates when it's not there like none of those other backs can. And he can also hit the home run. I just don't know how you can justify not playing this dude as a freshman, because we know he's going to handle his protections at 6'1", 220. He'll be just fine. He's the guy, man. He is the guy.
Is that who you would bet on of anybody to play this year the most?
I don't know that I would, just based on the circumstances, but I think that if we're just talking about a guy that's just a total difference maker right now more than anybody else, he's the guy that I would say is that guy.
So coming out of practice, is there any other position that you're concerned about or feel like the Buckeyes need to address in recruiting outside of that interior of the defensive line?
I'll tell you this. I thought coming into this, I really wanted to see a 6-man offensive line class. You got 4. You've missed out on a couple of your recent prospects. And then we go to camp, and it looks like, okay, Jake Cook looks like he's already in the 2 deep, and he looks like he's definitely at some point going to be a solid Ohio State starter. Javon McFadden looks like he's going to be a solid Ohio State starter. And Carter Lowe, we never had a doubt about. Now, if I'm putting this like this and I think, okay, well, we hit on all 3 of those guys. Well, now I'm fine with 4. You don't need 6 if you hit on all 3 of those guys. And that's kind of how I'm feeling right now about that. So I otherwise would have said, yeah, I'd like to get at least 1 more offensive lineman. Now it feels pretty damn good.
Do you feel like we're dealing with something like that on the defensive side of the ball with the cornerback room in Walt's class? We talked about it a little bit yesterday. Do you think people are looking at that room with the possibility that Jermaine Matthews might be back for another year? You still have Bryce West, Aaron Scott, Devin Sanchez. Doesn't look like there's a clear path to the field immediately if someone were to join this class or if someone were to join the team.
It's true. You got a very talented class, and I think that that kept a couple of guys out of this class on the trail here. Jordan Woods, interesting prospect, but I don't think he's going to remain at cornerback. So all in all, it is a pretty light group in numbers. So it would be nice to add one. Again, I just don't know if it's going to happen. And I don't know if we're going to get too far into the strategy. Ross Bjork addressed it today, again, pretty much confirming that he is not going to pivot this cycle. So we're not going to see any change in the NIL strategy, despite the CSC letting collectives operate as a business, which technically means, yeah, you can't offer guaranteed NIL again, but they won't be pivoting to that this year.
Q, you had questions on the new rule changes. Did you want to ask Juck about that?
Yeah, I feel like he read my mind. We're talking about the strategy. Juck, I want to definitely ask some questions on it. Obviously, we've seen the pivot, and we've seen at the time where it felt like Ohio State preemptively, before things were solidified, we're like, we're going to do this before we even have to. And it's felt like since the NIL era, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like outside of one transfer portal window and Jeremiah Smith, Ohio State has always been a little slow to react and has paid the price for it. And now we look, it's like most of our guys are off the board, and now it's too late to kind of make it up. Do you feel like Ohio State made a major mistake preemptively going, or you feel like you would have been like, like it's coming, I don't want to get this hammer that supposedly goes around college football but never shows up?
I think that Ross Bjork really wanted to do the right thing by Ohio State and get involved with this thing from the ground floor, and he did, and he helped create the CSC. And I think that not only he, but a lot of people around Ohio State thought that this was going to go a whole lot different when this rolled out. And then come to find out, we're seeing these deals didn't kind of go down. They went up, and they went up a lot. And I think they got caught with their pants down a little bit on some of these. Like, they did not realize this was coming for a couple of these guys, because you ended up wasting a ton of time on a few of these guys that looked like they were going to be NIL recruitments from the start, but they probably thought they could play ball. You got the revenue share. All right, we can work a little bit. And then they just end up getting $2.6 million deals. It's like, okay, we're out of this. But then things come around and you get things like the CSC changing the ruling here. They basically caved. The CSC caved and allowed the collectives to operate like a business, which is total nonsense. They should not be able to do that, because what I can do now is, if I am a collective and you are one of the guys I'm trying to get to come to my school, I can offer you guaranteed NIL, and I can funnel the money to you by saying, okay, here's what we're going to do. And we're going to do this 25 times. I am going to have a meet and greet with the fans, and I am going to get this one player $4,000 to come to this meet and greet with the fans. And I'm going to get that pass through the clearinghouse. And as soon as the clearinghouse passes it, now I can give that deal to all 90 of my players. And I can just continue to do that and funnel the money, which means you can offer now guaranteed NIL deals. And that is what we were waiting to see. Would Ross Bjork allow the Buckeye Sports Group to pivot to guaranteed NIL deals? And he's made it clear now twice that they will not be pivoting. They're going to stick with this strategy, hold on to their tails, while the class is probably going to drop out of the top 10. And I think there is a silver lining, but it's been quite frustrating, obviously, for a lot of Buckeye fans, not accustomed to being outside the top 5, let alone outside the top 10, when we got 2 teams in our conference sitting at 1 and 3.
Yeah, I feel like I've been in minority this offseason as people, and I don't know, I feel like it's been confused for agreeing with the decision. It was just, I feel like it was the least surprising decision that Ohio State has ever made. And you've heard Mark Givler screaming this from the mountaintops. OSU Legal runs this program. And everybody's been blaming Ross Bjork and the way that they've addressed this. And I'm like, the Buckeyes going into everything that they do tend to take the most cautious approach to everything. And we've watched this in years past, them be willing to just cave on a class and just lose out to everybody else around the nation in the name of what they feel is the right thing to do. And we've now watched them get burnt twice. Now we watched Texas A&M spend like drunken sailors in 2022. The Buckeyes tightened their belt buckle. And then going into this case, again, you watch the Buckeyes again take the conservative approach and get burned on it. At what point do Buckeye fans look around and just say, this is my program? I feel like this is one of those, like, you're sitting at a family event and you're looking around like, do you not know who you married? Like, we all know this person. How you who live with this person are you surprised? Like, the same people that are tweeting about this every day follow this more than anybody, and it's like, how are you surprised? You know this person.
I mean, if I go first, I'll agree a lot. I'll say, like, when the ruling eventually came out, which we knew was going to go that way, and we knew Ohio State had misstepped before it legally came out that Ohio State misstepped. I mean, I was like, well, there's outrage on Twitter. Like, this is who this program has been. Like, we've been beat on any NIL recruit, maybe outside of Jeremiah Smith, for like 3-4 years now. So it's no surprise here. And I think the bigger thing, and I want to ask, I feel like people are really disappointed that we didn't get the Texas A&M Ross Bjork and we got an Ohio State Ross Bjork. And I think that's kind of the most criminal thing, is like, you knew how to do this. This is why we brought you here. We brought you here to say, hey, legal, let's work around this. Like, let's play the money game a bit and be like you don't have to go full Miami or Texas A&M, but you can go full Georgia or Alabama, because they don't seem to have these problems.
This was not everybody, but the people that were excited about Ross Bjork, this was why. He's a huge fundraiser. He knows how to play the NIL game. And then we get this guy operating the way he is, which, again, like to Givler's point, a lot of that is coming down from, all right, this is what you can and cannot do. And nonetheless, he didn't have to go get himself involved. And I think this is the reason he's not pivoting, because he got himself involved with the CSC And if he turns and pivots, he kind of looks like a tool. But my big question, and I think a lot of people's fears is, okay, are you going to limit this to 1 year? If this goes like this next year and we still have, the same usual suspects going out and doing this, are we going to pivot at that point? And I think that's my biggest fear. That's a lot of people's biggest fear. But I do want to say, I was going through, this class has 7 3-stars in it. 7 3-stars. Obviously, we like the talent at the top. It's got some really good talent at the top. 7 3-stars we're not accustomed to. That's more 3-stars than 21, 22, and 23 combined, and 2 more than that. So we're not accustomed to that. But I went through and I looked at 19, 20, 21, and 22, and I just looked at the bottom 10 of every class. And we generally average 2.5 contributors out of that bottom 10. So does it really matter if they're 4 stars or 3 stars at that point? No, I think these 3 stars, 2.5 are going to hit out of these guys too. So either way, if you evaluated good, you're going to nail them. And then you do got the really high end talent at the top. There's no denying there are some dogs in this class. That's for sure. But yeah, it's been pretty frustrating for sure.
Juck, you hit on it. ESPN put out an article where they named Ohio State 3-star U because of their hit rate on 3 stars to draft picks, highest of any school in the country. So it is a little bit of a silver lining there. And you brought up the 3 stars. I mean, I look at this group and I think Kari Wilder's a 4-star, but when you look at some of these guys, Cam Brickell, I think that's going to be a guy that could contribute. Luke Fahey, the teammate of Phillip Bell, an arm in the room when it looked like the Buckeyes really weren't going to have a quarterback in this class. So for them to go out and grab someone there late, Brock Boyd, a guy I also feel is criminally underrated.
That's a 4-star all day.
Yeah, I'll tell the story. I went to college with this kid named Brandon Walters. He went to a powerhouse in Pittsburgh, and the recruiting or the scouting report about this guy was essentially he's being discriminated against. If he was a black corner and not a white corner, he would be playing Division I, but instead he played D2 and led the country in, led the school in interceptions that year. And I feel like Brock Boyd is his recruiting ranking is they're just not doing them right. They're looking at the film and they're saying New England Patriot, and I feel like that guy is a potential 4-star. And that's when I look at these recruiting rankings and I'm like, how much are we going to get caught up in these? And some of these guys, when we watch them hit, we talked about Austin Sareveld early in the class. These are the same 3 stars that people are talking about on signing day. It's like, oh, they're forgotten on signing day, but then a few years later, they're talked about as potential starting left tackles.
It's true. And we look at these 7 3-stars, not just Brock Boyd, who, by the way, walks in as one of the fastest players at Ohio State. And a team full of burners, this dude walks in as one of the fastest as a white fella. And Aaron Thomas,
as they would say in media, deceptively fast.
There we go. Aaron Thomas as a tackle, a true tackle body. How, we whine and cry, we can't get these guys. We got Aaron Thomas. He played defense up until last year. Guy's got 1 year of film on the offensive line. Crazy athletic and got the size. He'll continue to rise. You got Tucker Smith, an offensive lineman out of Arizona as well. That's a true 6'5" and a lean 280. They'll probably get him up to 320 pounds, and he's just a meathead, like an Ohio 3-star lineman. They usually do us well. There are a lot of really good pieces in this class down at the bottom of that board, and I think they did some really good evaluations on him. Fahey, I think, was the perfect quarterback. Like you said, I don't know what else you could do between Tavian St. Clair and Brady Edmonds outside of spending a whole lot of money for a kid that was going to transfer. Instead, you get a guy with some tools who's a little undersized from California who's a Buckeye fan. You want program guys. In this era, you can't have classes like 2022 where you got 7 dudes left. There's 7 guys out of the 21 kids of the class of 2022. You can't have a couple of those. You get a couple of those, you're screwed. So you need some program guys that know when they're walking in the door, I'm on the 3 or 4 year plan. I trust these people to develop me. and I'm going to stick around. And sometimes that has to be a 3-star because a 4-star has an agent and a mom and dad that think he can go play right now, year 2, and make some money. And it's just the way it goes.
How much do you think COVID contributed to those 2022 evaluations?
A lot, man. Every single one of those guys that transferred out, except for Hero Canoe, went down like 3 levels from Ohio State.
Yeah, man. It is crazy when you look back at that class, but I mean, we did get some gems out of there. Sonny Styles.
You can't miss the prospect of the group.
I do want to ask you about one other person in that 22 class. The CJ Hicks experiment continues. We talked about it a little bit yesterday. We've been lying about CJ Hicks on this program, so much so that we started a free CJ Hicks campaign during the season about 2 years ago, which prompted James Laurinaitis to block us on Twitter. But that's neither here nor there. I wanted to get your thoughts on the CJ Hicks position change.
I had a very hot take apparently on this, that this was going to be totally inconsequential to this defense. He looked terrible in the spring game. Yes, he had a couple sacks. Sam Williams-Dixon totally whiffed his protection, and he had a sack. And I was just adamant that this was going to be nothing. And then I watched him Saturday, and I got to say, things look a lot more natural for him than they did in spring. He looks a lot more powerful. He was, speed to power. He was looking good in the run game. And now I feel like, okay, there's a shot here. And before I thought there was no shot for this to be of consequence. And when I mean of consequence, I mean, everybody was so excited about it and saying ridiculous things like our Abdul Carter. Abdul Carter was an excellent linebacker before they moved him down. CJ was not that. That's totally different. If he turns out to be that, I'll eat my words happily. But now I think it could be something of consequence. It could be a help. Do I think it's going to be, a huge impact on the defense? No. But before I thought it would be 0 impact.
Over under 2.5 sacks for CJ Hicks this season.
I'm going to go over that number.
Q.
Yeah, I've been buying this like Ron. We've had so much stock. I mean, outside of my Arvell restock that I've made billions off of and got my own island. CJ Hicks is a guy I've bought into for a long time, and I may have been that crowd saying Abdul Carter Sr.
Just to be clear, I was with you guys. I got tired of getting burned. I said he's going to have to show me now.
No, I said I'm staying on this thing like the Titanic. I'm going down with the ship.
But I will say we've heard good stuff coming out of camp. I think CJ, 2.5, I would have to go way over. I think he's going to fall into 2 sacks. Well, I'm hoping that CJ Hicks takes as much time and watches as much James Pierce DN tape as possible and says, hey, I'm around that same size. I may not be bowling 315 guys over, or maybe he can, but my speed and quickness can be a problem for offensive lines around the country, and I will find a way to weaponize that. And I have trust in Matt P that he will say, hey, man, I got this free. Like I said, Juck, Matt P has been doing the most PR possible. Every practice I see him just stand by CJ Hicks. They might be talking about nothing, but he knows what the fans want to see. They're talking about scheme. Something crazy is coming. So Matt P has sold me enough that I'm buying the CJ Hicks train, and I will say at least a 6-sack season. At least a 6-sack season.
Ooh, that's asking for a lot. I'm not even getting that crazy. I set the line at 2.5, and Q is like triple it.
Put Ron's paycheck on it.
Oh, no. I wanted to pivot here before we get out of here. Q, a lot of tradition talk around the program today. Ross Bjork met with the media and introduced some new traditions. I try not to delve into these waters as a Pittsburgh Buckeye. I know you're a Zona Buckeye transplant from Virginia. We had to get an Ohio OG in here to talk about these things because anytime we talk about tradition around Ohio State, people are in the comments like, what the hell do you know about that? So we have an Ohio native here that knows all about tradition around the program, Juck, and I wanted to get your thoughts on some of these new traditions. Dan Hope had the scoop on all of the new things that will be changing for the Buckeyes. Among the new initiatives for 2025, a unified Block O student section, pregame victory bell ringer, Archie Griffin for the Texas game, 3 color outs, Scarlet versus Texas, helmet stripe versus OU, and black versus Penn State. The band has moved to the north end zone. The towel given to our fans, which is a replica of the terrible towel. Enhanced entrance, virtual Buckeye leaves awarded to fans for opposing false starts. Reformatted video board, and in-game presentations will be shorter and use the ramp. That's a lot of change.
It's a lot of new stuff. I'll tell you, I love it. I love it because I don't love it personally. Like, it's not going to do anything for me, but I think that there are a lot of people who really dig on this kind of stuff. And I've forever been irritated with the atmosphere at Ohio Stadium. Granted, a lot of it is we're usually watching blowouts at Ohio Stadium, but any little thing that can get somebody into the game, I'm all for, whether that be more music, these stupid towels, which I cannot stand, obviously, as a Browns fan, but whatever, we'll do it. I do love tying in the history of the victory bell. They're going to start doing that now on third downs, and not just before the game, but on third downs. I think that victory bell is awesome, and I think a lot of people don't even know it's there. It is so cool. The band, they're trying to sell that they're moving it from the metal south stands back to the concrete over in the north side. And really, while they're moving it because they're putting the boxes over there in the south, but they're going to try to make it sound like it's because of noise. They want to put it over in the north, and that's fine, whatever. But what they are doing is they're also, like Texas, they're putting speakers on the field and microphones to the band to make that louder field level, which I love.
So, yeah, I was going to note that Pitt has been doing that for years. No matter where you're at in the stadium, it feels like you're sitting right next to their band. So when people are talking about, oh, it's going to dampen the sound, Ross Bjork did address that and say that they were going to do things to enhance the sound of the band. And if you've ever been to a game at Heinz Field, they have speakers every 15 yards, and it feels like you are sitting with the band. So I don't think that is going to have too much impact on the sound there.
I love that. They're adding a new song by a band named Camp that's called Ohio, and I listened to it for the first time today. It is a folksy kind of tune. It's a little upbeat. I can't really understand that. If I didn't know the guy was saying Ohio, I wouldn't even make out that he was saying Ohio, but I think what they're trying to do is get everybody to sing along when he says Ohio. I'm guessing that's the thing, but it's the new song, like the official song. Hang on, Sloopy. No longer between the third and fourth quarter. Ross said we've got flexibility now to use that wherever we want, which means he wanted to kick it out and he wanted to put something else in there. I think this is what it'll be. That might not fly so good with folks my age and above. I certainly don't like it, but hey, like I said, the guy's trying really hard to make the atmosphere better, and I'm not going to knock any of this stuff because there's nothing here that I look at that I say, as a traditionalist, this pisses me off. There's none of that, and I'm thankful for that.
Q, if we lose to Texas after ringing a victory bell before the game, how many hours until that thing ends up in the Olentangy?
Oh, man.
Like, talk about a bold move as the athletic director. You know what is my first move? 1 versus 2 matchup, and I'm going to declare victory before the game. Like, that's insane to anybody else?
Yeah,
I hadn't thought of it. I love it, Ron.
A pregame victory bell. Well, we brought in Juck as the traditionalist. As the non-traditionalist, I didn't need this long list. I didn't need all these. I need 3 things. 1, can we add night games to traditions? Can we get a little bit of that? 2, can we use the red lights at the Ohio Stadium when we score touchdowns and let it actually bump in there? And
those are rented.
Oh, those are well. Can we buy
I'm
the red
serious,
lights?
they are.
Can we buy the red lights and then put those in and use them? And 3, on the sound system, can I get a little more yeet and yachty beats? And can we turn up? That's all I need. Those 3, I would have been good to go. But Juck's not mad, so I can't be upset. Maybe let's do a post-game victory bell, as Ron alluded to. That might be a little better, but he's trying, and I got to give him effort for at least trying.
Yeah, as another non-traditionalist, I personally love the towel. As a Pittsburgh fan, Juck, you'll love to know when I was in college, I used to work security at Steeler games, and I would be down on the field. And when they would do the towel time and play Renegade, you could feel the stadium shake under your feet. So if I could feel the ground shaking under me, that meant the opposing team could feel the ground shaking under them. I don't know if Camp Ohio is going to get the floor shaking in Ohio Stadium, but I'm sure the DJ could find something to make people wave their towels and make that stadium shake. And especially after years of criticism of calling the crowd in Ohio Stadium a wine and cheese crowd that didn't like to yell unless they were booing, to hear multiple players come out after last season and say that it was the loudest stadium that they had ever played in. You saw the center from Indiana say that. Yeah. You saw Dylan Raiola mention it at media days. He was in the middle of an interview sitting right next to a guy and said, if we were in Ohio Stadium, we wouldn't even be able to hear each other.
That was so exciting to me, hearing both those things come out and within like a week of each other. I couldn't believe it. That's something we're not accustomed to seeing. And I was just kind of blown away when I heard that. Heading into that Indiana game, Ryan Day kind of called on the fans to turn it up, and they really did. And that was awesome. Nebraska, I don't recall the atmosphere being like that for the Nebraska game. It was kind of a pissed off fan base for the most part. It was a game they shouldn't have been in, but I don't know. Raiola remembers it differently. Obviously that's it's great to hear. And if this continues to go this direction, I'm really happy about it. I want to know, though, what in the hell is a helmet stripe game? Like, we get what the scarlet is. They want everyone to wear scarlet. We get the blackout. What is the helmet stripe?
So the stadium will be all one color except for the 50-yard line. So there will be everybody from the 50 across the stadium will all be in the same color. So it'll be like a line going through the stadium. So it'll be all, I would assume, scarlet on one side or all white on the other side, and then whatever color that they do the stripe. Penn State has done a stripe out where they do multiple stripes, but the Buckeyes will do a singular stripe.
Okay, and are we going to be doing scarlet uniforms and black uniforms?
That has the scarlet uniforms and the scarlet out, I believe, are confirmed for the Texas game, but there's been much debate and speculation about whether the black uniforms will actually return, which seems so crazy to me. Like, people throw this out as the explanation for why we likely won't see the black uniforms. And that's our new jersey versions, the print template. Nike doesn't have a black version of it, of our current jersey. And I'm like, Nike doesn't have a lot of things. And then I see people show up with personal edition Jordans in every game. And you're like, everybody acts like Nike's like this startup on High Street.
Yeah,
like, I don't know if we're going to be able to get enough volunteers to get these jerseys together. Like, this small startup in Nike, I don't know if they're able to come up with it. Like, it is the explanation, but it's also a ridiculous one. Like, oh, Nike doesn't have any made. I'm like, okay, well, make them. I've seen 1,000 mock-ups of them. They also made the last ones. Go get a pair of those.
Make the damn black. Everybody wants to see the black. I like the scarlet better myself than the black. But everybody wants to see the damn black. Get the black back. It's ridiculous. Now again, as a traditionalist, that carries over to uniforms as well. However, now that our alternates aren't actually different uniforms, they're just different colors in the same exact template, I'm all for it. Switch them up. I love it.
While we're on the topic of uniforms, Chuck, go ahead, give your spiel.
About what? What are we talking? What about
sleeves?
Give me the goddamn sleeves back. I want the gray sleeves. This is ridiculous. We are now on year number 20. They rolled this out, and we all looked at it and said, this is terrible. This is not good. It'll last 3 years, and they'll go back after they sell their jerseys. And here we are, 20 flipping years later, and we are still stuck with this garbage helmet striped sleeve on our jersey instead of the most beautiful jersey in all of college football. It's absurd.
See?
Hey, don't worry, Juck. It's coming after the stadium renovations.
Right. By the way, I did hear today that the Woody is getting renovated. This is the fourth time they're going to renovate the Woody instead of tearing this building down and rebuilding a new building for these guys. I can't believe it. I couldn't even believe it when I heard it. The fourth major renovation to this old building, when we're looking at places like Auburn and Nebraska, they got Taj Mahals, Texas Tech, and Ohio State is going to remodel the Woody again for the fourth time. Absurd.
Do we want them getting too comfortable in the practice facility?
It's true. I get the point. James Laurinaitis said we like it gritty, so I get it.
That's the thing, too. And it's not like these kids are going back to dorms or like crappy off-campus housing. They're going back to penthouses in downtown Columbus. Like, they could rough it for a couple hours in the Woody. It's their way of grounding the team. Like, it can't get too fancy around here. We're not Oregon.
Yeah.
Oregon has a dome for a practice facility.
They're
no
new one. That new indoor. Have you guys seen the mock-up for the new indoor? Looks like a spaceship with all glass. It's crazy.
Oh man, I used to pray
Spoiled
for times
rotten.
like this.
I heard it's shaped like a big zero for the number of national championships that they've won. It could just be the natural shape. Could have been architectural design. We may never know. But Q, before we get out of here, anything else about the new traditions at Ohio State? I know you have a lengthy tradition that you keep going on Sundays where you don't watch college football. Any other ones that you want to share before we get out of here?
Oh, no, man. I mean, it's good to hear the Scarlet is back. Now, me personally, I've not been a fan of the black uniform. I think it's a little lazy because it feels like it felt in black paint and they said it's fine versus actually throwing some detail in it. So I will say if Nike's going to take the traditional uniform and make it black, I know they're too busy making Oregon uniforms, and that's why they don't have enough time. But if they were ever to spare some time, I would like to see what that looks like. But like I said, I think the tradition is cool. Ross Bjork is trying stuff, and I think the uniforms we will see as they go. But yes, give me the gray sleeves. Let's go. I need to buy those. I need them in my closet. So can we get some more of those out instead of just a white stripe? I think that's a little lazy.
Juck, do you think the company that makes all of Oregon's jerseys is going to be able to find a way to make a black uniform for Ohio State if you had to bet on it?
If I had to bet, I refuse to believe that Ohio State is doing a blackout and we're not going to see the black uniform. I refuse to believe it. If we do see that, they're going to get roasted mercilessly, and I'll be in the front of the line.
And do you think there's any chance that Ross Bjork has built enough clout that we can somehow see this game at night?
No, not yet. I think it's coming. I think it's coming next year. I think we're going to start seeing some things that are going to change with that, but not yet.
I'm sorry, I can't just end it there because I have to ask you, what do you think the most likely solution coming out of that would be? A new Fox presentation in prime time? Or do you think that Fox will just come up with some sort of financial way to sidestep it and get a game into prime time and allow people to buy the game out?
I think the second option is more likely. I do. But I think that they also want to, they were willing to make concessions for the Texas game, big concessions for Ohio State to move that to the primetime game and on a separate day, which lets me know that they don't want to go into renegotiations for this thing the second time around with their cash cow of the Big Ten furious with them. So they want to help. They want to assist Ohio State in some kind of way. And, I think eventually we're going to start to see more night games again because of that. I mean, if I was them, it just makes sense. You don't want to piss them off. And you heard their statement when they said they were, considering moving it to Sunday primetime is, this is one of our best partners. And they absolutely are, man. They make all their money off Ohio State. Not all of it, but, a healthy amount. And you don't want them pissed off going back to the drawing board because if Ohio State wanted to, and they never did under Gene Smith, they could really throw their weight around. And now with the new boss in charge, I'm hoping that he does. Gene Smith went into everything with what's good for Ohio State in the Big Ten, and we'll meet in the middle. It feels to me like Ross Bjork is what's good for Ohio State. And if that's also good for the Big Ten, that's great. But what's good for Ohio State? And that's the way it should be.
Absolutely. And you love to hear it. Q, Juck, Appreciate both of you. It's been awesome. I'm so glad that we got an Ohio voice on here, or we would be getting destroyed in the comments for talking about tradition around here. So we couldn't thank you enough. It was great to get to see you in person at camp and get to watch practice together. And I'm glad that we got to see the same things. And I couldn't wait on my ride home to watch your show. And I'm like, did I see it the way that Juck saw it? And I was glad to hear that we were seeing the same things out there, and it was such a great time.
It was an awesome time, and I love being on the show. I texted Ron the other day, Q. I said, hey, I want on the show, man. And I got on week 1, so I feel like a VIP. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. It's always a fun time, more fun than I anticipate every time.
Always a good time to have you. Q, let the people know where they can find you.
I'm not hard to find, man. City Boy Twin on City Twin.
I mean, if you give them the wrong handle, you are going to be pretty hard to find.
I will be hard to find. Anyway, Quentin on Twitter, find Johnson on Instagram, but you know where I am. Dead Air Sports Monday through Friday, right here. Even Juck pulls through sometimes, so make sure you hit that sub button. Make sure you hit that like button. Remember, we are off. BDM is live this week, but it's not live forever. So come on over to Dead Air Sports. If you have questions, put them in the comment section. Like the video, all that good stuff. Check out Juck on Bucks every day. And Ron, get us out of here.
Chuck, let the people know where they could find you, because you have a couple new homes this season, so it might be a little bit harder to keep up with you.
It's harder to remember. So you can find me Juck on Bucks most days, but every Monday and Wednesday at 8 p.m. this season, we're going to be doing Buckeye Huddle Primetime, a new show over on the Buckeye Huddle channel. That's live, 8 p.m. Monday and Wednesday. Hop over and join me.
So even Juck find a way to do night games, and Ohio State hasn't, man. I'm disappointed.
Be sure to check out Juck on the Juck on Bucks channel and on Buckeye Huddle. If you want to find more of our content, you can catch us right here on Dead Air Sports. If you're still watching on the Best Damn Media channel, there will only be 2 more episodes after today on that channel, and then we will be exclusively here on Dead Air Sports. If you're watching on Twitter, make sure you find your way over to YouTube and subscribe to the channel. It's the easiest way to help us, and it costs you nothing. We appreciate everybody for tuning in. Again, a big thank you to our guy Juck. A big shout out to our guy Chris Drew doing our intros every morning, an added bonus to the show. We always appreciate it, and you guys know how this thing ends. It's always go Bucks, and of course, OH.
I-O.
Example, when things get hard in life, you just keep swinging as hard as you can. You fight. That's our culture.
I promised you we had a plan. Remember that we talked about a plan? The plan was infallible. Part of that infallible plan is getting a team prepared, ready to go, so we start practice. Our coaches know what we got. And there's not one person in America I trusted more than Coach Mick and that staff. Think about this. 130 teams either today they report or they've already reported. 130. 16 weeks from now, there's going to be one champion. One champion in our conference, one champion on the side of our conference. And in the country, one team's going to do this. Not 36, not 48, not 44, one. That tells you how hard it is to be a champion. To do right all the time. To know your assignments. To have 11 guys play hard on every snap. That's hard. That's why there's one. I want a hungry team. I want a hungry team. I want a team that can't wait to get out there. Where there's a bunch of players that maybe, whenever you have a new coaching staff, you haven't played much, maybe you're trying to make a name for yourself, you're a hungry football player. I want a hungry team. And last one, most importantly, I've got to coach a few of them. I want an angry team. I want a pissed off football team. I want a team that has a little chip on their shoulder. Maybe something's been taken from you. Maybe something hasn't. Maybe something's been taken from you. Are you a team that's going to go get it? You're the Ohio State Buckeyes. You're an angry football team. You got an angry staff. You got a bunch of guys that are getting ready to start a journey. We're starting that journey tomorrow at 5 a.m. You're a hungry football team, and I'm proud to be your coach. There's a plan in place, right?